Part 3, Thursday, June 25th, 2026.
Right, so we see how this directly impacts these immigrants who are here legally, but what does it mean going forward?
Right. I mean, this means going forward that people lack certainty. And of course, uncertainty is never a good force in a community. Steph, let me read from the dissent and just put a personal face on what kind of people our country will lose as a result of this decision. Justice Kagan writes, take as examples two of the individual plaintiffs here. Fritz Emmanuel Leslie Miat is a Haitian national who has held TPS for 15 years. He lives in California, where he works in a laboratory researching Alzheimer's, a job he can only hold because of his TPS work authorization. He suffers from type 1 diabetes, easily treated here. In Haiti, she writes, the same disease can be a death sentence. This opinion does not make America greater again.
Holy cow. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem had said the presence...
Wow. This decision is based upon, well, you hear what they're saying here in the analysis, and basically it's, there are some bad statements, which the majority won't even mention. But it has nothing to do with anything, you know? Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Checking the flag tonight.
Has ruled this is the worst outcome. I'll tell you, Steph, the hope had been that the court might, for instance, say the administration could end TPS in this case, but that there could still be judicial review. They've foreclosed judicial review, apparently.
Madame Rubin.
Well, one of the things that the court is saying is they have foreclosed judicial review with one exception, and that's if you articulate constitutional claims.
Can I pause?
Yeah.
Say that. Explain that. Speak to me in New Jersey.
I'll speak to you in Southern California, where I'm from.
There you go.
So you can't go to the court and complain that you don't have temporary protected status anymore because they say the statute says you can't go to courts to overturn that decision unless you have a constitutional objection. And here the Haitian immigrants said, look, your ending temporary protected status was motivated by race. You did this only because you had racial discrimination in your heart. And to that, the court says something that I think is really interesting. They say, look, the Haitian litigants here gave us a bunch of examples of things that people in the administration said about Haitian immigrants and Haitian refugees that would have scandalized us. This is the majority's language, would have scandalized us just a short time ago. But whatever you think of these statements, they're insufficient to show that this administration was doing so based on their race. Why? Because they say the race-neutral explanation was because this administration just doesn't like immigrants generally. And that's stupefying to me. Well, they say, again, Steph, I'm reading from the court's decision, that they've identified, meaning the Haitian litigants have identified a strong race-neutral explanation that this present administration has a stance on immigration and an antipathy toward past administrations' TPS policies, meaning they're hostile to the fact that the Biden administration wanted to make this country more welcoming to people from Haiti, from Syria, from a number of other countries that were suffering humanitarian crises. And that combined with their general preference against liberal immigration policies, that explains the fact that they've cut this off for Haitians and Syrians, not the fact that they've got some racial animus in their heart. I suspect that the three liberals in dissent have quite an answer to that.
Okay, can I summarize that?
Please do.
The court is saying that because there's an obvious racial animosity from the president that leads him to be anti-immigrant, he enacts policies that are anti-immigrant, and because he enacted policies that are anti-immigrant, these particular policies can't be about race.
Correct.
Great.
Thank you.
You know, I'm reminded of a case my husband once tried where his client, a civil case, was accused of discriminating against women. And the defense was, our client, he's not just a jerk to women, he's a jerk to everyone. And it took
He's just a universal jerk.
I mean, it took the jury 5 minutes to render a verdict against that defendant, right? Now the Supreme Court is saying, well, this is just common sense. You know, there can't be a racial motive here. It's an appalling decision. You know, some decisions do not stand the test of time. This one, I suspect, will not stand the test of time.
This is going to have an impact on our labor force. right? When you think about the amount of immigrants we have working in this country, especially at more blue collar jobs, we're going to hear from so many employers across the country, loads in red states.
Of course. And of course, we're not talking about people who are undocumented, right? We're talking about people who, by virtue of having temporary protected
Okay, can you
status,
just explain that one more time? Because
Yeah.
I think that people are going to go, but it's about undocumented immigrants. It's not.
No, it's about people who, many of these cases are about people who, in one way or another, have permission from the government to be in this country and to lawfully work. And what we were talking about in this case is people who were granted a temporary protection to be in this country, largely because they were escaping some sort of humanitarian crisis or war in their country of origin. And a prior administration said, we will grant you permission to be here. And yet the administration here is basically saying, no, we don't want any of these people. And I want to say one more thing about the race thing that Philip and I were talking about. In her dissent, Justice Kagan is saying, look, the evidence is clear in the president's own statements that this was about race. And we know it's about race because the statements are so ugly that even Justice Alito, for the majority, can't bear to repeat them. That, to your point about whether or not this is going to last the test of time, the fact that the majority can't even bring itself to cite the statements that the Haitian litigants here brought before the court, I think speaks to the ugliness underlying the decision to revoke this permission to be in this country and lawfully work here in ways that have reverberations, Steph, to your point, to all of us.
Let's bring Fallon Gallagher into the conversation. Fallon, you have gone through all the documents. What's your take? I don't think she can hear me.
I can hear you now. I got you.
Fallon, what's your take here?
Yeah, Steph, this is, of course, one of the two biggest immigration cases that we were waiting for. And honestly, one that I thought was going to come on the last day of the term. This was the last case that they actually heard. And this was always going to be kind of messy. This could have gone in so many different ways. But as Joyce has been saying, this is probably the worst possible outcome for those TPS recipients, those Haitians and Syrians. The court on ideological lines here saying that they don't even have judicial review. They can't go to the courts for this. And the liberal justices were really worked up about this. And I just want to read very briefly from this dissent. This is, of course, Kagan dissenting, and she writes at the very end, at this juncture, both sets of plaintiffs ask for only one thing, that they may stay in this country while they continue to litigate their claims. For all of the reasons given, they are entitled to that relief and should not instead be consigned to devastating and indeed life-threatening injury. And we've been making this point on air, but these are people who are here legally. They're here under protected status because it's not safe to go back to their countries. Of course, in Haiti, there was that devastating earthquake, and that's why those people have been here. And so now this will go back to the district courts. These were two separate cases that the court consolidated. One came through D.C. here, and the other one came through Massachusetts. And so these will go back to those courts they're reversed back there to the district courts, and the judges are going to have to relook at these cases because the Supreme Court here today is saying that they don't even have the option to seek judicial review for non-constitutional claims.
It's funny because it's like, if I think about this country, the whole foundation of this country was that we were a place you could come. And my great-grandparents came here because they were fleeing the pogroms in Ukraine. And now we are saying, basically, I mean, this decision ultimately says, like, no, that's not what we are anymore.
What's going to be the fallout after this, right? So we see how this directly impacts these immigrants who are here legally, but what does it mean going forward?
Right. I mean, this means going forward that people lack certainty. And of course, uncertainty is never a good force in a community. Steph, let me read from the dissent and just put a personal face on what kind of people our country will lose as a result of this decision. Justice Kagan writes, take as examples two of the individual plaintiffs here. Fritz Emmanuel Leslie Miot is a Haitian national who has held TPS for 15 years. He lives in California, where he works in a laboratory researching Alzheimer's, a job he can only hold because of his TPS work authorization. He suffers from type 1 diabetes, easily treated here. In Haiti, she writes, the same disease can be a death sentence. This opinion does not make America greater again.
Holy cow.